Good morning, you're watching the Channel 10 Breakfast Show on Tuesday, the 10th of March. I'm Nikki Dean.
I'm Byron Evans, even. I can't even get my own name right.
What's your name? That's not your name. Anyway.
It's Awesomeness Day today, getting a little bit giddy. In April is Alcohol Awareness Month, and Mike Jones from Greater Manchester Public Health Network is here to tell us how we should all be aware of our alcohol intake. Alongside Dr Binaj Nair is on the couch with us this morning as well. A quarterly report is out, Mike, looking at the intake of Mancunians across the region, how much we're consuming, and it's rather alarming.
Yes. Greater Manchester has got the highest intake of alcohol for binge drinkers, for harmful drinkers and hazard drinkers outside of Scotland. That's
a worrying... Why is that?
There are many reasons why, and I think that one of the things that we're trying to look at is why there's reasons. But I think it's a lot to do with the fact that Greater Manchester has been, you know, an industrial town for many, many years, and there's lots of issues that are tied up with that.
I know that this particular report has highlighted Bolton in particular has got a big problem. I know you're going to be coming back in April throughout to discuss some specific case studies, but Binaj, what are the implications of binge drinking? I mean, we seem to have spoken about it time and time again, but people don't seem to be getting the message.
No, people aren't particularly getting the message because you know, it's not something that is particularly well publicised. The big health implication long-term is cirrhosis of the liver, which leads to liver failure and leads to death. And the cases of it are rapidly increasing in this country. It's going to be a big, big killer for our young people when they get to their 40s and 50s.
Well, Mike, what can people do who maybe sat at home watching this concerned or not even maybe registering about their alcohol intake? What should they do to take some precautionary steps?
I think one of the first things you do, if you think you have got a problem with alcohol or you want to discuss it, you should go to your GP. And your GP should be able to give you a brief intervention and an audit. An audit is an assessment of your alcohol intake, and a brief intervention is a 10-minute quick session to be able to talk you through the pros and cons of what you're doing in relation to alcohol. If you think you've got a problem much more than that, then you'll need to enter one of our treatment services, which are all advertised locally, and they usually have a free phone number.
OK, to break it down in layman's terms, a regular bottle of wine, how many units are we talking?
In a bottle of wine, it's around about 9 units, so for a woman who's only supposed to drink 2 to 3 units a day, 3 to 4 for a man, then that's a third of a bottle of wine.
OK, of an evening.
Yeah, Binaj, you were saying a little bit earlier that perhaps people should take a break for a week or two from the pop and just kind of, like, stay off the sauce, and so you can actually take in, well, actually, you know, mentally register how much you perhaps drink across that week.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to sort of, you know, keep account on how much you are actually drinking, and a lot of people don't realise they're drinking very much. The other thing is, a lot of people justify by saying, I never drink during the week, I only go out and drink at weekends, but that's worse. Binge drinking is actually worse for you. It's a good idea to just take a 2-week block and maybe just write down every drink you have just for that time, and then tot it up and see how much you actually are drinking in an average week. And most people probably be fairly surprised.
Right, gentlemen, thank you both very much for joining us this morning. In a few minutes, we'll get all the latest sports news with news on the Salford superstar Morsey. What's next for him? Hopefully, a world title bid. Will join myself and Mike Bradley shortly. But first, let's get today's headlines with James.
Good morning. These are Tuesday's top stories. Staff at the Christie have been told they've lost the £6.5 million they put into an Icelandic bank that later collapsed. The money had been donated to the world-famous cancer centre and was to be used for 2 new radiotherapy centres. The organisation responsible for giving out compensation in such cases says the Withington Hospital didn't meet the rules needed to get a payout. Bosses say they'll now go to the High Court to try to get the money back and have been told they have a good case. Politicians from all parties are condemning the shooting dead of a policeman in Northern Ireland while he was answering an emergency call. The officer was killed in County Armagh last night, just 2 days after 2 soldiers were murdered in Antrim by the real IRA. Nobody's yet claimed responsibility. Police have issued a photo of a man they're looking for after a Bolton schoolgirl says she was groomed for sex online. Officers say he went by the name of Paul, and it's thought he may have travelled from London on a motorbike to have sex with her, knowing she was underage. The pair had met in an internet chat room. Detectives investigating a hit-and-run that killed a Stockport policeman on Friday night are still holding 3 men. PC Mike Silcock was knocked down by a BMW while leaving a pub in Heaton, Mersey. Officers are questioning a 24-year-old and a 19-year-old over the crash and say they're also still holding another man who's 29. New teachers could soon qualify in just 6 months rather than the current year. Details of the changes will be announced later to try to attract high flyers from other jobs to switch professions. It'll also feed into a plan to let new staff move up to being head teachers in just 4 years. Thousands of pounds worth of jewellery have been stolen from a pensioner as she walked across playing fields in Lee. Details of the theft on Sunday the 22nd of February have only just been made public. The 69-year-old was crossing the grass at Westlea Hall when a man on a bike came up behind her and snatched her handbag. The force he used sent her crashing to the ground. A new Tesco here in Manchester will get the Royal Seal of Approval later. Prince Andrew will officially open the store in Cheetham Hill this afternoon, which has been designed to be environmentally friendly. The Duke of York will meet members of staff and shoppers there. The number of houses being sold sunk to a new low in February. Experts are blaming problems with buyers getting mortgages for the slump in sales. The Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors says the average estate agent agreed only 9 sales during the 3 months to the end of last month, which is the lowest since 1978. Plans to fit ashtrays to litter bins across Manchester city centre have been scrapped after they started getting stolen. The council had set aside £125,000 to install 1,000 of them to try to cut the number of cigarette butts ending up on the streets. But the metal drums have become a target for thieves looking to cash in on rising prices for scrap metal. A new design will now be drawn up. The TV watchdog Ofcom's decided no rules were broken on X Factor in the week when Bolton student Laura White was voted off the show. There were complaints that some people couldn't get through to vote for her. Checks on the phone lines show there were no significant problems with any of them. Fans of body art from across the country have gathered here in Manchester for a 2-day event to celebrate tattoos. The show at Manchester Central featured more than 100 tattooists and body piercers from all over the world.
We've got about 90 artists from all over the country. In fact, they're from all over the world. We've got such luminaries of our industry as Dan Gold of London Inc., the TV reality tattoo show. We've also got Lucifer from New York City. And we've got KG, he's come all the way from Hollywood, from 264 Customs. As you know, tattooing has been around for the last 10,000 years, but the biggest growth area for the tattoo industry in the last 5 years has been women getting tattooed. I find that's fantastic.
That's all from me for this morning. I'll be back with the Channel M lunchtime news at 12 noon, and don't forget to join Andy Crane tonight from 5 for all of the day's main headlines. Now, though, a look at the sport with Byron and Mike.
Now, whatever you think of golden balls, Brand Beckham continue to bag their headlines, and today is no different. Mike Bradley, what is David up to?
Well, as you know, he's just signed for AC Milan for the rest of the Italian season from LA Galaxy. He'll return to LA Galaxy for the MSL season once the Italian season is finished. That will be in the summer. But LA Galaxy now want a clause inserted in his new contract saying when he returns to the MSL, he will not be allowed to play any England friendlies. And to be quite honest, I think they do have a point, because he signed for them in a multi-million-pound deal, the richest sportsman in America. They want value for money. He's brand MSL over there. They want to get the money worth him in the advertising campaign. I'm sure they do. Does he need to play England friendlies? I don't think he does.
Well, come on. I mean, that whole signing for LA Galaxy is turning out to be one giant golden balls up, really, isn't it?
It is. It's also making his accountant smile all the way from ear to ear. So a bit of give and take on both sides. He's got his wish of a move to AC Milan. That was never on the agenda when he went to America, so he's probably pushed his luck a little bit. And the compromise deal is play for England, but don't play in the friendlies.
Well, we've heard all about his timeshare agreement, paying part of his transfer fee, but a little bit more extreme up in Bolton, a player playing for free?
Yeah, Mustafa Riga, the young striker for Bolton, he's not played for the first team. Well, I think I probably had hair the last time he played for the first team, and he's now said, in an effort to make my way back into the first team, I will spend the rest of my time playing for free at Bolton. So I know he can afford to do that, but he didn't have to come out and say it this morning, so fair play to young Mr Riga.
And one player who always gets first-team action, Van Persie. Plenty of speculation that he may leave the Gunners.
Yeah, Robin Van Persie. Last week he said if Arsene Wenger left the club, Robin Van Persie would follow as well. Today he's come out and said he wants to stay at the club, but that's despite not being offered a new deal or not even, contemplating signing a new deal. So as always with sports journalism, I think the story behind the story is the better one there. What he's saying is, offer me a new deal quickly or I will be leaving. That's what he's saying.
You don't need to be Mystic Meg to work out the prediction for England's 5th test in Trinidad, really. I think most people are going to say a draw.
You think it's going to be a draw? Yeah, they won't lose. It will be a draw. It's going to peter out disappointingly into a draw. This is how they finished overnight. They're just going to start day 5 of 5 at 2 o'clock this afternoon. England, second innings, 80 for 3. Lost 2 quick wickets in the first 6 overs. The best bid really rests with Kevin Peterson, who made a pretty impressive 34 yesterday. West Indies 5-4-4 all out. England lead by 82 runs. 1 day left. Disappointing. That'll be 3 drawn games in the 5-match series, and we will come home yet again. English cricket once again in the doldrums, I'm afraid.
In the doldrums, well, could be said for Salford City Reds at the moment, only because their Super League season hasn't started off firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, they started off with a win against the Celtic Crusaders. Many people tipped Celtic Crusaders to finish bottom, and then since then the Salford City Reds have lost their last 3 league games. Hope is on the horizon in the Challenge Cup. The draw was made last night for the 4th round. Ties to be played over the 4th and 5th of April. Selected ties: Barrow Raiders entertain Wigan, Hull FC entertain Salford City Reds. There you go, Byron. That was another tough game for Salford. Leeds Rhinos play St Helens. That is the tie of the round. Oldham have French visitors in Lesignan. Swinton Lions play Rochdale Hornets in the big derby. Wakefield Trinity Wildcats entertain Lee Centurions. The best Lee Centurions can hope for is to enjoy their day out. They will keep the score down to just a little bit less than a cricket score, but great time for Lee. They will be on the National Media Awareness Day that day, so plenty of publicity coming their way. But for Salford, a tough tie.
Yeah, just quickly before we move on to League 1 and 2 fixtures, just had a look. Swinton Lions there up against Rochdale Hornets. What do you think about that derby?
Well, the way Swinton have started this season, which is a little bit inconsistent to say the least, that could be one of the big surprises in the offing. I hope Paul Kidd's not watching, because I know he does get on with us. I hope it's not upsetting too much, but Paul, you're going to need to bring your A game to the field that day. Could be a surprise. What
about Stockport County? Will they need their A game tonight?
They will need their A game tonight. The pitch at Edgeley Park is fast becoming a beach. Let's have a quick look at the early team news ahead of their game against Hartlepool. Carl Baker out with his ankle injury. Peter Thompson will probably miss the rest of the season with his collapsed lung. For Hartlepool, Matty Robson, we think he's recovered from his hamstring injury. He'll have a late fitness test. I don't expect him to start. Joel Porter's groin strain will keep him not even on the bench. We'll keep him back in Hartlepool. He won't be rested. But already concerns. Every single visiting manager gets a personal appearance from Jim Gannon in a dressing room beforehand, because Jim apologises about the state of the pitch.
Really?
So it's not looking good.
Crikey. I tell you, a man who makes no apologies at the moment is Alan Nill, Bury FC's manager. He was on the breakfast show yesterday, Boyd, after the win at the local derby between Bury and Rochdale. Both teams in action tonight. Yeah,
and Mac in action as well in League 2 tonight. The early evening team news: Mac Town, Paul Morgan will miss out with concussion after running into a teammate in training. They're both concussed. With no team news from Accrington. Bury travelled to Morecambe to face Sammy McElroy's side there. Paul Scott misses out with a knee injury. For Rochdale, for their home tie against Bradford, Chris Dagnall is suspended. Last match of his 3-match ban today. Gary Jones, another groin injury, misses out. Tough game for Rochdale, coming on the back of that defeat against a Bradford side who recorded their best League 2 win of the season, 5-0 against Aldershot on Saturday. So tough games all round.
I asked Alan if he thought Bury were they are well in contention for that automatic spots, and I asked him if he had it in mind, but he said he doesn't believe in the superstition. He doesn't want to kind of think about it, take every game as it comes. But do you think they've got it in the bag?
I think they will be certainly in the playoffs. Right. It's tough. I think there's only 3 points separate the 2nd to 7th in League 2, so it's going to be tough end of the season for them. But Easter's coming up, where they've got 3 games in 10 days. After Easter, we can have a look at it again.
Well, speaking of tough, there can't be any tougher than Salford superstar Jamie Moore, the new light middleweight European champion.
Yeah, he beat Michele Piccirillo in Wigan on Friday. We sat down with him on yesterday's news and asked him what next for the man they call Morsey.
I've spoken to Frank Maloney, and the plan is to top the bill, the UK side of the pay-per-view leg for Ricky Hatton's fight on the 2nd of May in 7 weeks on Saturday. So I need to stay active now. I was out for 7 months, nearly 8 months before this fight, because I got messed around by the former champion who didn't want to fight. So while the ball's rolling, I want to keep bit of momentum going now, and so I'm gonna fight on the 2nd of May, and then hopefully again in July, and then before Christmas a world title shot.
Before we leave it this morning, Mike, final word about Jamie Moore. Could we see great things for him? I know we waited 3 years for that last fight. Hopefully he won't last anywhere nearly as long waiting for his next one. Could we see a new Hatton? I
don't think we'll see a new Hatton, but I think we're looking at 2 European defences and a world title shot. I think he's got 3 fights left in him.
Really? OK. Well, let's hope he gets that title back and he wins the European belt as well. Mike, thanks very much. See you again tomorrow. Time for a break, and coming next, a tasty credit munching chicken dish and a teaser from Justin Hawkins' new band, Hot Legs, glam rock at its finest. If you consider glam rock fine. See you shortly.